This time on EV Tuners, we're going to find out, is there any way with the right modifications you can make a Tesla as fun as a Miata?
What's up everyone? Today on EV Tuners, we are going to be on, where are we, Forrest?
We're on Skyline Blvd in Bay Area, California.
It's beautiful out here. What are we driving?
We've got a 2024 ND Miata.
And this is my 2022 Model 3 Performance. And we're going to be comparing how these two cars drive. His stock Miata, which is well known as one of the best driver's cars, and my Model 3 Performance, which while maybe isn't known for having a lot of good handling, mine is modified with a lot of different suspension parts, and it has gobs of horsepower to even it up. So we really don't know what we're gonna find, and also we haven't really compared notes between the two of us as far as what we think and hypothesize is gonna happen here. So it's anyone's game, and we're gonna be hitting down this Skyline Blvd. Let's go.
And we're off. Zing! Zing! Oh yeah, that's great. That is what I waited all week for. I'm Forrest, and welcome to beautiful Skyline Blvd here in the Bay Area of California. We are driving my 2024 Mazda Miata Club, and this is the only gas-powered car I own, and it may be the last gas-powered car I own. My other two cars are electric vehicles, and I'll just put my cards on the table. I'm an EV gearhead. I love electric cars. I used to be an engineer at a now highly controversial EV company. And EVs do most things I need. They do well at commuting. I can make them work for me on road trips. I even take them to the track. The one thing I've never gotten an EV to do for me is to bring me a lot of joy at street legal speeds on a curvy road. Maybe I just haven't driven the right EV. Some people talk about the speed you're going, or the percentage of the car's capability in tenths. You guys heard that before? You might say, oh, I was really pushing it. I was going 10 tenths. Or, hey, at this track day, we're going 7 tenths here. Let's not get too crazy. Let's just relax and have fun. This car is fun at 3 tenths. I would say I'm going 3 tenths right now. I'm going the speed limit. I'm not really slowing down in the corners. Okay, big sweeper going downhill. I feel just a little bit of, I feel the steering load up as I turn in, and I feel just a little bit of vibration that's telling me where the bumps are in the road through the wheel. And that used to be every car, but nowadays this is just a lost art. And this Miata isn't even the best Miata at doing this. The earlier ones had hydraulic steering. You know, the hydraulic steering was probably better. But I'm getting feedback from this car that's really hard to find in a modern car. Oh yes, connecting those two turns, it just sticks. And this is on stock tires. Just trying to get space.
Between us?
The car in front was really slow. Okay. You can go ahead.
No, go ahead.
All right. Oh yeah, there we go. We are back in business. Oh, this is what I live for. You know, some of us were born with taste buds on our tongue, and some of us were born with them on our fingertips. This is what my fingertips want to taste. Roads like this through a car that doesn't filter things too much, doesn't hide the real world from you, that gives you the whole sensation. Driving this car is somewhere between driving a small car and riding a motorcycle. So this car is not really a way to experience a specific car. It's just a tool for directly enjoying a certain road without a whole lot between you and the road. So this car is not perfect. The biggest problem as far as I'm concerned is we're still burning gas, which in my personal opinion is not as good as an EV for the climate. The other thing you notice immediately in this car is it's noisy, but the noise really depends on the road surface. This surface is a little bit rough. It's not been paved that recently, so you hear it's just like almost like a regular car driving on a gravel road level of noise. On a freshly paved surface, It's like porcelain. It feels great, not too loud. Right now I'm driving with the top up because I want you to be able to hear me on the microphone, but usually I would drive this road with the top down and enjoy this canopy of beautiful trees, many old redwoods and other amazing things. And I actually, in that case, wish I could take the motor away. And I would just, maybe there'd be some wind and tire noise, but I'd feel more immersed in this environment that I'm here to enjoy. I'm driving with 2 feet right now, by the way. I'm in 5th gear. I'm revving pretty low, like 2,000 or 3,000 RPM. It doesn't take much. But when I come into a corner, I can get nice weight transfer with the brake, and then I'm right away on the gas. Just like that. And sometimes it beeps at me because I'll push the gas and brake at the same time, just a hair. But that's fine. It can complain. I'll keep doing it. If I could have an EV that would give me this feeling on this road, then I would never own a gas car again. And this is the only use I really have for this car. This, and I sometimes take it to the track. This curve is great. Such a nicely banked curve. I can feel with the banked curve, I can feel the road pushing the car into the turn just the way it's supposed to. Everything's just working right.
All right, and we're off. My first drive on Skyline Blvd, and Forrest says this is quite the popular spot. Just while we were filming the intro, we saw quite a number of really interesting and fast cars getting onto this for their weekend cruise. This is a 2022 Tesla Model 3 Performance. While it has gobs of horsepower, depending on how you calculate it and what the state of charge is, it's roughly 400 horsepower, 400 torque, a little bit higher when the battery is in a full state of charge, a little bit lower when it gets derated, when it's a lower state of charge, but still gobs and gobs. What they are not famous for is their handling, and that's where I've done quite a few modifications to this car. For the handling, it is on coilovers. It's dropped about 1.5 inches. It's the Mountain Pass Performance Sport coilovers, and they're set about midway. On the track I could stiffen them up even more, but this is a good balance for a daily drive. Those of you who have driven on the track, you know that a street alignment just simply won't do, and when you start messing with dropping a car and messing with the suspension geometry, you need to be able to adjust the camber and toe of your tires to not just eat through them. So I have front upper control arms and rear camber arms, rear toe arms. I also have the control arm bushings in the front, which that has hands down been a really big change in the overall handling of this car. As far as the brakes go, the only things I've done so far is braided steel lines and the brake brace from Mountain Pass Performance. That firewall flex, you can feel that, and the brace helps get rid of that. One thing that the Model 3 experiences at above 70 miles an hour or so, especially on the track, gets a little light on its feet. So I'm running the Meyer EV rear spoiler and side skirts. I had the front lip on there, and I have a replacement right now. Long story, when someone backed into it. But I did drive on the track with both of those pieces on there, and it was a night and day difference, especially at high speeds. Didn't get any impact to the range. As far as tires and wheels, currently I'm actually running on all seasons. I'm not taking this to the track in the next little while, and so I'm running all season tires since they're cheaper and last a lot longer. But I did switch to 19-inch rims instead of the 20s that came with it. I wanted a little bit more sidewall. It's also cheaper to replace those tires at a 19-inch than a 20. All of this is to say that the car handles completely different than when I first bought it. Still has gobs of power, but I'm able to actually keep speed through corners, and the body roll is severely reduced. I also can feel the road through the steering wheel to a much greater degree than when it was freshly new. When people ask me what it's like driving an EV, especially if you're trying to drive it any sort of fast, one of the big differences that you notice is the regenerative braking. One pedal driving, and I actually, once you're used to it, I think it is quite nice and can be very smooth when you're entering in corners. In some ways, being able to let off the gas and have it hit the regenerative braking going into a corner is very similar, same effect as trailing braking, which many of you may know is you hit the brake hard and then let off slow to continue to have a little bit of that brake going into the corner. You can get that same effect, that trailing braking effect, with regen. And you get the benefit of capturing some of your power to be able to then go fast on the straights again. With an EV, the one downside to regen is that pushing all of those electrons back into the battery does increase the heat of the battery pack. So while you are being more efficient with your energy use, that's all for naught if your pack gets heat soaked. So there's a balance. If you are going all out for like a time attack event, then you probably want to consider having less regen, using your brakes more, because you don't care about conserving your energy quite as much. If you're in an endurance race, you absolutely want to have as much regen as possible, because the race is won or lost by time on the track. So that's Forrest in the Miata in front of me, and I'm pretty excited to drive it. Well known as being one of the best drivers' cars, and I have not ever driven a Miata. In fact, I have never even sat in a Miata. So who knows how that's going to work out.
So we have traded keys, and I'm now in Daniel's modified Tesla Model 3, going the other direction on Skyline Blvd. And let's do the obligatory thing where we floor it. We're not going to make a lot of noise, so we're not going to scare anyone. Except me! Woo! Okay. I didn't know my voice could go that high. Right. So I'm immediately noticing more steering feel than a regular Model 3. A regular Model 3 steering is pretty freaking dead. Just like it does what you say, but you don't get any feedback really. This thing, I'm feeling some vibration from the road in a good way. I can tell a little bit about the road texture. And I've been optimistic that this would be a good candidate for improving the suspension because it has good bones. It's got what they call double wishbone or double A-arm front suspension. People who like driving on the track, people who like twisty roads, often really like cars with double wishbone suspension. And I feel whatever Daniel's done, it's really woken that up. Oh yes, it sticks. It really sticks. For me, on a road like this, the horsepower doesn't matter very much. You know, a K car from Japan, a 60 horsepower K car could probably keep up with what I'm doing. Because there's just not a lot of room to go fast here unless you want to go way above the speed limit. So what this is really testing is, can we get the feel from the car? And the Miata, which Daniel is behind me driving right now, I feel it tap dances over the road. It's so light on its feet, and because it literally is a very light car. This thing, like there's a bump in the road and I just go straight down, and then I come straight back up. The Miata, I feel a kind of, I roll into it. And that could be the weight. It could just be, this thing weighs, I think on the order of 4,000 pounds. And that Miata weighs 2,400, maybe even less than that. I know there are lighter versions of this, like if you get the one that's only rear wheel drive and the smaller battery pack, I've heard that it could be as little as 3,500 pounds. That may really be one of the things you'd need to get more of a tiptoeing over the road as opposed to burying in the road sensation from the car. I can feel the steering load up a bit. I think what the Miata does well is both you get the sensation of the road texture as well as the steering loads up progressively as you turn in more. This car, I'm getting road texture, which is great. That's something that I think is missing from a stock Model 3. But I'm not getting the weight at turn-in. And a lot of cars with sport modes or track modes or things like that, what they do is they monkey with the steering weight. So they say, okay, when you put it in the higher performance mode, like a sport mode, we'll just make the steering heavier all across the board. They think that enthusiasts just want heavy steering, but that's not it. We want to really understand, when we use a certain amount of force on the car, how much force is the world exerting back on us? And that's the sensation of the steering loading up. I also feel in the straight line in the Miata, I have enough to keep me entertained. I've got the top down normally, and I'm enjoying everything overhead, canopy of beautiful trees, and I'm enjoying goofing around with the shifter, heel and toe shifting before the next corner. But here I don't have too much to do in the straight line. But once I get to the actual turns, I am pretty happy. I have definitely driven cars up here, like a C7 Corvette, where I go through some of these turns and it's just like nothing happened. Like none of the sensation from the road or the fact that I'm going faster than walking pace, none of that sensation reaches me as a human. If this were the long way to get home from work, maybe it's an extra 20 minutes, but I get to take 50 turns in the mountains, you know, back and forth, up and down. Would I take the long way home? In the Miata, the answer is absolutely yes. I would take the long way home. This thing, I feel I would sometimes take the long way home. No, I like the feeling of this. This is a nice curve. Ooh, yes. And unfortunately, I'm going too fast now. I would love a speedometer right in front of me, and I know there are aftermarket solutions to that. I would love more manual controls for things like a separate button to move the mirrors, not having to dig into the steering controls for that. It would be great if I could control the air direction of the vents with my hand. I actually need to go in the screen over here to do that, which seems like a bad idea. But these are all well understood quirks of Teslas. Either you like them or you tolerate them or you don't. I would say I'm in the camp of, I would tolerate those quirks for the joy that Daniel has introduced into this car with his suspension modifications. People don't realize that they have a car that may be a little bit bland to them, or they're just a little bit tired of it, or it's not quite doing what they want. And sometimes the answer is you just need a completely different car. But sometimes you're 98% of the way to a great car and you just need to change a couple of things. And for me and this road and this car, I feel like this thing was already close. It's just that the steering feel had been tuned out of it, and it's been a while since I drove a Model 3 up here, but my recollection from a few years ago with the stock Model 3 was in the corners it didn't feel quite as confident as this. I suspect the fact that Daniel's added more camber, more inward angle to the front tires has helped. I'm going to say something that might be unpopular. This thing has too much power, because I'm just not going to use it all. Daniel has driven this on the track quite a bit. We're both kind of track driving enthusiasts. And his experience is that it can make the battery really hot and kind of heat soak, and then it starts to derate. In other words, it gives you less power. If I were to build this car for myself, what I would probably do is to get a long range, not a performance one. And then I would add the biggest brakes I could find, and bigger tires, stickier tires. I try to copy whatever Daniel did for the suspension because it's clearly working, and then I would take it to the track. It feels good. This is a car I want to keep driving. I don't feel done. A lot of times I go on a trip in a more boring car and I'm just done at some point. This thing, yeah, I'd love to keep going.
All right, and we're off again. Well, guys and gals, the question we've all been waiting for, does Daniel fit in a Miata? The answer is kind of. I'm definitely inside of it, and I can hit the pedals and everything is working. The one struggle is headroom. I definitely could not drive this car with a helmet on. Maybe if there was a racing seat, it would be a different story. It'd be a little bit further down. Right now, there's no helmet room. Nice and cozy. You wear the car when it comes to a Miata. You can tell that this car is 1,500 pounds lighter than the Model 3. Very responsive steering, good road feedback. It's always fun to row gears a little bit. I see why people like driving these cars. It's very nimble. And even with the relatively low horsepower, it feels like you're going fast. I don't know if this is something anyone else thinks about, but I always judge a car based on how it looks through the front windshield. Some cars, they just fall off completely and it is not very exciting. Some cars, they have this big monolithic block in front of you and it feels like you're completely separated from the world. The Miata has these fenders that flare up on the sides, but then it drops down towards the center, so you have great visibility and the curves look really nice. One obvious difference between this Miata and the Tesla that people probably have already guessed, but it would be unfair if I wasn't talking about it a little bit, is just the fact that it's a rear-wheel drive sports car in the Miata versus the Tesla, which is all-wheel drive. I think it's too bad that the simple car with a manual transmission, rear-wheel drive, has become something that is so rare, because they really are fun to drive. People seem to think that no one wants to drive cars like this, and so they aren't putting it out into the market, but yet every time someone finishes a drive in a car like this, they're smiling. I've never seen someone get out of a little sports car in a bad mood. The shifting, while enjoyable, is a big difference from the EV. And while I like the feeling of shifting and of rolling the gears, in my daily use of my car, of the Tesla, I can't say that I miss having to worry about gears. Even when racing, there's enough to think about, and you're still dealing with the balance of regenerative braking and weight transfers. You're just not using a manual transmission to do it. Ooh, that rotates pretty nice. You may not know this, but there is such a thing as a manual transmission in EV. There are some very popular conversion formulas which maintain the manual transmission. But what you might not know is that that still doesn't mean that you're going to row gears. The way that the electric motor works doesn't require you to start in first. You could keep it in third or in fourth for the entire life cycle of that car. However, if you do want, you're able to start in first and row gears. Why don't people do that? Well, you lose a lot of efficiency through a transmission, and that's also a lot of weight. So most modern OEMs, like a Tesla, they still have a gearbox, but it's just a single speed, and it's very, very tall. No regen braking in the Miata, but with the grip and the lightness, you don't feel like you need it. I've always heard the Miata is described as a momentum car, and that makes perfect sense now, having driven one. They'll get up to that speed that you want it, and then you want to carry that through your curve as much as possible. If you lose it, it takes a little while to get back up to it. But it's engaging, keeps your interest. Something about it, I get what people are saying when it is it's a driver's car. There's something about it that's terrifying, thinking of going 100 miles an hour. But it handles incredibly well. I just had a moment where I realized I probably should have checked how much gas there is, which I guess is an anecdote that suggests that you get used to what you drive. And while I'm quite used to checking the state of charge of the car, or I just inherently know it all the time, I'm out of practice when it comes to checking the gas tank. I don't think that I'm the first Tesla owner to admit to driving someone's gas car and then walking away with it running because you forgot to turn it off. Interestingly, I feel like the Miata is similar stiffness, but I definitely am bouncing around the road a little bit more than in the Tesla. I know the Tesla, the weight helps to absorb some of that, but also it has very stiff suspension. So it's interesting that it feels like the Miata is bucking. I can really tell the difference between the solid bushings that I have in my car versus the Miata. Well, I still can feel the road. It's a little less steering feel than in my car. And I think that is primarily due to those solid bushings, especially because the stock Teslas are known to have the steering of a cloud, in that you are completely blind and can't feel a thing. Ooh, nice turning radius. Not quite as good of a turning radius as a Honda Fit. That is the maximum. Whew, that was fun.
Very. I've been waiting for this for a long time, and we finally did it.
We finally did it. Schedules aligned. This road was absolutely gorgeous too. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't know about this.
I love it, yeah. And it goes a lot further. We only explored the tip of the iceberg.
All right, so was it enough for you to pass judgment on the modified Model 3? What do you think?
I really like it. I think this car already had good bones. You know, car enthusiasts will know what a double wishbone front suspension is, and this, unusually for this day and age, has it. This is something that typically makes it easier to engineer a car to have good handling characteristics. So it's like, this is sitting here waiting to be opened up and uncorked, is my sense.
Yeah.
And you've done it. You know, it's got steering feel, which the stock one just doesn't have.
That's one of the biggest things that I think was what changed it for me, was that the front bushings, the control arm bushings, getting those pressed in with the solid ones, along with lowering it, totally changed it night and day.
Yeah. One thing I noticed, I'm kind of a connoisseur of good steering feel and good feel through the seat of the pants. And I noticed in this, you get really good feedback of the road texture, like if it's more of a marbled surface or a really flat surface, you get a different sensation. One thing I don't feel as much is as you turn in some cars, you really feel the steering kind of load up and get heavier. This one, the heaviness is pretty much the same all the time for me. That might be more of like an electric steering rack thing that could be tweaked later. Overall, this car is half a Miata unit of fun for me.
Half a Miata.
Which is way up from the base Model 3, which was 1/8 a Miata unit.
1/8, oof.
So you've gotten a 4x improvement with whatever you did.
Nice. Like I had mentioned, this is my first time ever driving a Miata, and I had high expectations because it's such a well-known driver's car, and it did not disappoint. I really, really enjoyed it. I feel like what it lacks in power, it makes up in lightness. It had that acceleration, and the gearing was really nice. One thing that is probably like the biggest detractor for me is that my head hits the roof. So that is going to knock off from my Tesla unit. That knocks off a couple, just because I wouldn't be able to really track this unless maybe the racing seat would lower it enough.
Yeah, they're what are called tall person mods for this. So there are different attachments that you can get for the seat, maybe even in the extreme case eliminating the forward-backward motion of the seat and just putting it right in the ground. And there are also ways to modify the pedals to be further away from you. So a lot of taller people have done that, but out of the box, you're right, it's just not a very tall friendly car.
It is very engaging though, and I feel like I felt the road feedback a little bit less in the Miata than I do in the Tesla. On the reverse, the Tesla hides a whole lot more of the feeling from the wheels going over bumps. This had a whole lot more rawness.
It's more through the seat of your pants than the steering wheel on this, right?
Yeah.
I had a previous generation Miata, and that was good both at the seat of the pants feel and the steering wheel. I feel going to electric power steering for fuel economy kind of really, it's a step down in terms of the steering feel versus the older ones.
All in all, I loved the car. It was very engaging, and so I would say for me, it's a 0.7 Tesla units of fun. The biggest distractor is the size for me, since I had a hard time fitting. And then I did miss that acceleration just a little bit. Even though this was engaging and good, I would have liked just a little bit more power. I guess the next question that we need to figure out here is, does the story end here, or do we repeat this test in autocross or some sort of track day and see what it can do when we're not following all of the traffic laws? We followed them all.
We did, all of them.
So, will my opinion change if we're on a track and driving the Miata? Will you feel the wheels load up a little bit more on hard turning? I don't know.
Yeah, I'd love to hear in the comments what we should test next, and also if there are other cars we should pair with that one or that one to find out, which one's more fun.
Yeah, you heard him. I hope that you guys had even a fraction of the fun that we did.
Blooper.